Good evening, everybody. I am Spencer from the Dispenser Show. I'm trying a different format tonight. It seems to be pretty simple to use. I'm using StreamYards today instead of OBS and then streaming right to my page. Tonight, I wanted to actually bring in a special guest, and we all know who he is. You know, I play games with him every week, I work with him. He's a great mentor and a great inspiration. And tonight we're actually going to talk about uh, drawing dungeon maps and creating characters and all this other fun stuff. So without any further ado, I'm actually going to bring him in here. Good day.
Hello, man. What's
How's it?
happening?
Oh, it's happening. I'm working this new system out, and it's actually working into my favor. So
Okay. Alrighty. Cool.
yeah. So
It's,
today, like I was saying, we're going to be character creations, dungeon maps, all that other fun stuff. You know, what's your take on it, my friend?
That's my take. Dungeon maps. So for me, I know you've played in uh one of my games of Castles and Crusades,
Yeah, yeah,
and pretty much what we did at that time, we were trying to kind of slowly get you guys into a little bit different kind of a headspace than what you were normally accustomed to, that being the 5e,
yeah,
and getting into something that translates a little bit into that 5e realm, but doesn't take you out of it entirely. So I thought Castles and Crusades would be a good kind of introductory for you and Tristan.
yeah, for
And
sure. And just to let you guys know, Tristan, he's my son. He plays games with us. I'm trying to get him into our Traveler game for next week, where we are going to work on his character sheet later on. But anyways, you were saying, Rick?
so I thought, the easiest way to kind of introduce you guys into theater of the mind and stuff like that would be, kind of doing a little bit of mapping by, providing a little bit of a visual representation
Uh,
on the dungeon itself. So that's one of the reasons why I went with kind of still depicting the dungeon on the Chessex map. So
right.
yeah, and most of the encounters that you guys encountered during the excursion in Ressenford, because we were playing Secret of Bone Hill, basically the module, but it's an altered version of it, because I like to take things that already exist and kind of mix them up a little bit just to make them more
Yeah,
interesting.
for sure.
And
And interesting, you do take a really good take on it.
yeah, I mean, we had a good like theater of the mind session in the town, and I did have a map. Like, it was just a small map, if you recall correctly,
Yeah.
just
Oh
a
yeah.
kind of a sheet of paper, just so that everybody kind of had a same headspace of what was going on. And then we did a little bit of talking back and forth with, I think you guys were recruiting some of the members of the militia, other parts of the Kingsmen, because the Baron's men. The
Yeah.
Baron was out of the castle at the time. He was off doing some important diplomatic things,
Right.
and there was basically essential that was remaining in the castle, which ended up utilizing you folks to neutralize the bandits that were just north of the town. And it was a lot of fun. It was most of it was theater of the mind. The the trip out there, I think what happened. It was Josh's character that ended up getting chased around by the brigands all by himself. He was kind of trying to lead them away. That was his
Mhm.
plan. Remember that? And
Yeah, yeah, it was.
then you guys went ahead and proceeded ahead in order to investigate what was up ahead further. You wanted to kind of thin the herd out so you can make it easier for you guys.
I think it was Tristan that took off to investigate. Didn't he get tied up or something up?
No, no, no. That was later. That was kind of later
Oh,
because
okay.
he showed up a little bit later and joined your group, kind of idea on
Right.
the second excursion. Because during that first one, you guys ended up in discovering the secret exit only because you were a gnome. You're playing a gnome, and you could detect unnatural things in the stonework around you.
Yeah.
So I thought that was interesting, and for me, I was not expecting uh, a gnome character to be in the group, and of course, you created this character um, prior to my setup of their headquarters,
Mhm.
and well, after their after the setup of their headquarters, and that turned out to be an interesting situation that I did not expect. So you guys entered and faced what should have been the final beast in the entire complex, which was a roper.
Oh yeah.
And you remember what happened with the roper, right?
To all the new fans out there as well, like when he's talking about theater of the mind, it isn't from a book. It's all in your head. It's the create, like I was saying last night, the creativity of everyone, like the brilliance of everyone's mind. You can be creative or you can go base it off a book. And with Brick, he solely likes doing it theater of the mind because you never know what situation you're gonna come up with. And even ask him himself, the only notes that he has is like maybe half a page of point form things that might happen.
I think our last session here was I'll kind of show you. You won't be able to read it, but that was basically all based on our last session of Travelers. So it's not much. It's just a page of a few notes, but that's all I need because I already know the motives and the way that the NPCs are in the game.
Mhm.
And I do highly recommend if you're going to approach Theater of Mind, NPCs are going to be what you rely on because that is the only thing that you truly control in the game is the NPC and the narrative. So if your narrative voice, you describe things to the players and you try not to intercede as and this is hard because you're going to have to get out of the idea that you want to relay information to the players that doesn't sound like it's in a narrative form.
Mhm.
So it's a little tricky. So when until you kind of overcome that, it's going to be kind of hit and miss. So don't expect to go in it, guns blazing and being 1,000% successful at it. Because yeah, it's going to take a little bit of time to actually get used to. Um, I'm trying to set up my little thing here for some drawing today, so that's why I'm kind of looking down
Yeah,
and
definitely.
so
And
I have this thing here, and it's I'll be broadcasting that to you in a bit.
for sure. And for those who are slowly or solely experienced in just by doing campaigns from the book, it is going to be a little bit of a challenge going from the book to Theater of the Mind. And I can tell you from experience because I went from like playing D&D with my son and my daughters and everything else like that. And going to Theater of the Mind the first time, I'm like, holy Moses, like the difference that you have to start, trying to put yourself in there and really get going. It's almost like you're the one that's controlling your character. You're not being controlled by a dice roll or something that restricts you from being your character.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it doesn't appear that my pen is currently working right now. Let me see. Yeah, for some reason it's not here. Let me see if I can go ahead and position it somewhere else here.
Oh, Sean Cherry just said hello. Hey, Cherry.
Hey, Sean.
Thanks for watching the show here. It's always great to have more people. It really inspires me to keep going the way I'm going.
So, now when you go ahead and you prepare for a Theater of the Mind game, you don't have to have the fancy maps laid out. You don't need to go into great detail in creating a map in order to show your players. However, it is nice to have a nice map made for yourself so you can kind of look at it and look at the shape of the rocks, like or the crevices and or whatever it is that they're trying to traverse in like the complex that the players are invading. Say it's just a traditional dungeon crawl. So if you can if you do have the ability to make cool maps and stuff, just make them for yourself. For me, I don't. I can do a really nice looking map and stuff like that, but for what I'm doing, the players aren't going to see it at all anyway. So what I end up doing is drawing out basically, squares or circles with lines going to each one of them. I can make a line going straight. I can make it go around and do an L shape with it. I can put a little S where I want to have an offshoot, a secret door of some form, that sort of thing, or a secret, passage. I can put a little square with an X on it, making it like a trap. There's a trap in that spot, for example. But in each square where there's like a room, you can write down beside it a few aspects of that room. You can say the dimensions of it. You can say what the walls look like, if it's lit or unlit, as torches, whatever, what the contents of the room is on the inside. Just write down a few aspects of it, because what you have to get over in your head is the control of where everything is placed as the dungeon master. So whatever you say that is in that room, the players can interact instantaneously with. They don't have to do I gotta walk over here so many steps away and grab the item and dump it over, or whatever it is that you're doing. It could be like a hot plate of coals on it. Say you wanted to dump it over and cause a kind of big spillage on the floor in front of the goblins in order for them to go ow ow ow. They're walking on coals if they try to approach the party. It's entirely up to the player to imagine where those things are. And it's up, and you have to be, as the GM, be super lenient on not worrying about where those things are placed. They're placed wherever the players are, wherever they can get to them right away. So it just makes for more of a cinematic kind of effect, because the players can imagine themselves grabbing something, dumping it, doing an instantaneous spur of the moment kind of thing, and have fun with it. You're not fighting with, oh, well, it's going to take you a couple of moves before you reach that spot. Or as a dungeon master, you might have your idea that there's like a set of pillars going along the corridor or whatever.
Yeah.
And the players all have their own idea what this corridor with the pillars look like. and one of them might say, "Oh, I use the pillar for cover." So, I mean, and if you were a stickler for maps and you have that pillar in like a oddball spot that the player can't get to, it kind of gets a little weird. So let the player have the pillar where it's at and let him use the area that that he's interacting with the way he's fit. And
Yeah.
I find that gets you over that hurdle, which I kind of mentioned a long time ago. I did have a video on a discussion on how can you describe something to another player and have it exactly how you have it envisioned on your map. And the crazy thing about this is you go ahead and look at some of the old school dungeons. Like, are you familiar with ever using um the adventure Keep on the Borderlands?
No.
No. Well, it gives you a dungeon basically, which is kind of like a bunch of caves around an area of a valley, and in each cave entrance is kind of like a dormitory for a type of creature. You got one area that has like hobgoblins. You'll have another area with goblins. You'll have another area with orcs, and then you'll have like an one spot with something mean and nasty in there. But without kind of spoiling things, if you've never played it,
Mhm.
um, that's what you're kind of situated with. But when you look at the map and you see that it's a 10-foot grid and nothing is really detailed within those rooms. So I suspect when originally that whoever it was that created that dungeon really didn't want to bother with placing things in exact spots anyways.
Mhm.
So when he writes the description in there, you're given a description, or you got barrels with meat in it and stuff like that. And it just gives you a generalized idea of what the contents of that room is. I'd say that's perfect for theater of the mind use, because you're free to have those things wherever they are, wherever the players want to place them at the time, at the moment.
Basically, you're creating the setting on what our characters are in, and then what the characters are doing are working together in that setting to overcome the next obstacle, which would be, the next thing you describe in the map.
Exactly. And the players can use whatever they find in there. Yeah. Sometimes you put in stuff that's crazy, like planks of wood that are 10 feet long,
Mhm.
or a spool of rope, or I don't know, maybe some sheets, some linen sheets, some great big wide linen sheets. You never know what the players are going to come up with
Yeah.
when they combine those items together with something to puzzle out a trap up ahead, like a pit trap or something like that. They may
Yeah.
want to use the planks. They may want to use the rope. They may want to go ahead and use the linen sheet to cover over the pit and trick some enemies into it, or whatever it is that they decide on doing. You let that happen. You let the players have their moments of ingenious ideas and creating something on the fly, and just do it. See whether then you roll to see whether or not the setup succeeded or not,
Yeah,
and go
definitely.
from there. Right? You don't have the players like roll right away to see whether or not that trap is set up properly or not. You wait until the very end,
Yeah.
and the creatures are coming upon it, and then yeah, and then you pull off
Next
the
thing you know,
surprise.
there's some random death trap in there that the creatures are crawling out of, and the
Yeah,
sheets are kind of covering the camouflaging these creatures, and next thing
yeah,
anything could possibly happen. But
exactly, and
I
that's the
just
fun,
want to
fun of it.
pause for 1 second here. My face looks like I'm pretty sickly right now, so I'm gonna try and throw on some extra light here. I didn't know it would get dark that quick. I was actually all on natural light here, so just give me 1 quick second, everyone.
Okay, let's see. Hey, let's see. I've seen villages and towns mapped out this way also. Yeah, yeah. Even in like for example, the village of Hamlet, same sort of thing. Nothing was really detailed in each of those locations. It
Mhm.
was just basically open areas. You imagine where these things are, where your players wish, and you go for it. Most of what the towns were depicting was basically who lived there, what their relationship, a couple of sentences on the relationship to the town. Like one could be a priest of a certain order, uh, but also it had the amount of money that could be pilfered from that location. So, and possibly with the container that it's in, whether or not it's trapped or something like that. So you can see back then a lot of these creators of these dungeons were thinking in that kind of context where you really didn't have to go ahead and place anything in a specific spot in order to, you know, detail it out.
Well, it's, this is all like the best stuff I've come across in a long time. Being able to do theater of the mind, I never knew up until what, about a year and a half ago, Rick,
Yeah.
when we started playing games together and he started introducing this theater of the mind. I'm just like, what the heck is that? And he literally busts out Castles and Crusades, and he's like, "We're gonna do it this way." And I'm like, "Well, what about the dice roll? I'm used to the dice roll. No dice roll.
Yeah,
No."
I
I'm like,
remember the time Tristan it said, I want to use an insight roll. And I'm like, no, no, no. Forget that stuff.
yeah,
What you do is you ask in character what's around you,
yeah,
and you use your own powers of what you believe to see in your mind's eye,
yeah,
and decide on how you want to approach it. You
yeah.
know, if you look at a chest and you're like, um instead of asking, is it trapped, I mean, you just kind of look at it and you go, I investigate it from the front to see whether or not there's anything that'll trigger it. Is there any kind of loose platforms in front of it? And perhaps I will either let you do a roll, or if I feel that you are skilled enough to observe something matter of factly,
If you
I
watched
would
any of
say,
his videos, you know he'll test your skills.
yeah,
There's been
sometimes I
a
will.
there's been a few times where I'm like, okay, well, my talking ability is way better than my gun handling.
Yeah, yeah,
He's like, oh, a referee's gonna come in here, and it's like, well, you miss. It bounces off the wall there, ricochets all over the room,
yeah.
and the guy's standing right in the middle of the room. I'm like, wow, that's always exciting.
And I remember your tough times trying to understand theater of the mind a few
Yeah,
times. I remember one particular event where you guys entered a uh, a cafeteria basically, on an alien planet, and now in some cases there you do have role plays where the players interject their own kind of stuff into the game,
yeah,
although which is cool and can be done, and if you decided that's the way you're going to do it, you're going to have players conjuring up all kinds of things that the game master wouldn't do. In those cases, you aren't the game master. You're just a player like the rest of the players. So Shauna and I did this once where we kind of just, you know, interluded our own things one at a time, each of us taking a turn, and we created this crazy adventure, which kind of got stopped short because our rocket fell apart. But uh, which made it very interesting. but the whole exercise was to do what you say where you were and what you were doing,
Yeah.
and you can, I mean, you can interject your the way that you talk and everything. It's whatever. But when you're playing that way, yeah, nobody's the game master, and everybody's kind of imagining something, and it's occurring. Those can work really well if all the players are on board with it, and it's kind of like set in place that this is the thing you're doing.
You know,
However,
the best place I've actually seen that happen was our last session last week.
oh yeah, yeah,
I've never seen so many people work together in one instance ever.
oh
And
yeah,
I was so happy to actually see that. It was crazy.
I had to stand back a little bit. I realized I was interjecting a little, so I have to stand back a bit and let you guys talk it all out, which I
Yeah.
thought was really cool, and I enjoyed that because it gave me the leeway to write down some notes, and stuff. Listen to what you guys were saying, and kind of chuckle a bit in the background as you guys were, you know, kind of going back and forth on what you were doing and everything, and you guys were doing the plan instead of like talking about the plan. You were doing the plan, so you were in character, doing the things, talking to each other, doing the plotting together. We got to do this. No, no, that'd be wrong. We got, and you were in character doing that, so which was great.
Uh,
What's ever wrong with it is if you were out of character and going back and forth and doing Mother May I with me
yeah.
as the game master, and with yourselves, like, but it was a great session, and I enjoyed that lots. But when you have one designated game master, the game master kind of sets all the rules of the situation. So in the case of that cafeteria, you guys walked in, and I told you about the all the food in front of you. It looked all great and fancy and everything, when this was, basically AI robots that were just taking pictures of stuff and
Yeah.
recreating it in a kind of a 3D molded form, and it didn't have any taste. But when you walked in, you were like, "Oh yes, I can smell the things, and I'm imagining I can taste, the." Yeah, well, there wasn't any smell. So in that case, it's a narrative where the game master controls uh, fully the narrative, and where it's not me, like, taking over when you do something cool. I would rather have you guys, explain how cool that looks and everything.
Yeah.
And I think I'm going to work on that with you guys a little bit more as we go along here in the adventures of Shadow and the Stars. And what I take care of is what you see, because well, what it tastes like or whatever, because it's part of the narrative. The narrative was these AI had no idea what food smelled like or tastes like. They just made things in these kind of decorative looking pucks that you would throw in your mouth and chew on, and nutrients kind of idea. But I remember a couple, like, even what was it? Adamus took one in his mouth, and he was like, this is delicious. Yeah, yeah, no taste.
Good old
And
Adamus.
he's
Yeah.
like, he was always like, he's like, I want to check this out before we actually consume this stuff. It doesn't, he's using his uh stuff that he had on him to check to see whether or not there was anything radiating from him, or if it was like a poison of some form, or what.
He just went
Players
ahead
are,
and threw it in
yeah.
his mouth, and I was like,
Well,
"Woo!"
he eventually did, yeah. But yeah, you have a lot of players like being paranoid and everything too. So that kind of stifles things too, especially when you're coming up to a door or something. You see this nice looking decorative door with these door knocker handles on it, but oh, there's like a demon's face on each of the door knockers, right? So, does that make you go, do we knock it, or do we just pull on it, or what? That's up to your players to decide. You can kind of look at each other and go, are you going to pull on that thing? Then the other guy's going to go, well, maybe we should knock first, right? So you're discussing stuff between the players, what your plan is. If your players are paranoid throughout your entire session, opening that first door can be a little bit tedious sometimes. So you kind of see that in some players. So I mean,
If you all have the right same frame of mind and same theatrical flair, it could be really, really fun to play. And the group that we have has that flair.
Yeah, it's getting there. We all still need to I still need to practice. I'm not the best game master or whatever. I'm just trying to become better and better at what I'm doing. And the feedback I get from everybody that watches is awesome. It's cool. I even
you
get
are one of the best ones out there that I've seen yet. Like I want to tune into like Cherry, Sean Cherry or Shauner or Shadow and Sun when they start doing their sessions too. I want to see how they do it. I want to see their flair, their theatrical, what they want to bring, right?
So. I might I have convinced Shauner to do a one-on-one with me, so that's promising. And it would be something where it'd be kind of the same as what we were doing. I would be creating the narrative that he would be going through, but of course he would have the freedom to, of course, place everything where he thinks it is, because theater of the mind just works that way. Unless I show him a picture. If you show them a picture, then everybody's like on the same level right away. They know what they're seeing. They can make assumptions about the picture, what they see in it. They could even bring out something that I didn't even see in the picture sometimes, which makes things really interesting, because then it perks up my interest, thinking, why is that figure there in the corner? It could be somebody, and that's where we go with it. It's something that I didn't even think about. Maybe I didn't even see it in that picture, and boom, we have something that we are all exploring together, and I have to rely on my ability to, ad lib, to, improv the situation. Sometimes I'll go ahead and reach for one of my cards, so I'll grab those. The nice thing about that Fari app that we're using is it has cards in it already, so you can make your own cards. You can import in your own sets of cards, be it Cypher System cards or whatever cards you may get from DriveThruRPG. I'm sure there's like 1,000 sets of cards that are in DriveThruRPG that you can get. There might be some at the big Geek Emporium now. I don't know. I haven't checked things out how big Big Geek Emporium has been growing lately. That's another place that's like DriveThruRPG, where people are putting their stuff on there because they're not being censored. So, which is cool.
Yeah. Well, but it's sort of like the D&D cards. Like you got the magic items, you got the other things that go with it. Like they all come in their own sets. With these ones, it's sort of like a Cypher set that comes with cards and different scenarios that you can basically get yourself into and get out of it.
It gives you
RPG.
Prompts. Yeah, it gives you prompts that you can, that like they're not really 100% specific, but there are ones that are specific, like the GM intrusions, right? They'll be specific to combat, or or a general situation or something like that.
Yeah.
So with the some of the cards, they'll give you like three different ideas in them, and they might give you a little symbol in the corner or a number or a kind of like a faked dice roll or something in there.
Yeah.
A lot of them will give you like maybe just words or something that you could pop in, and it triggers something in your head. It may have something to do with the queen. And if you're trying to wonder what this scroll is that you have like uh, created in the moment, and
Mhm.
if you produce the word queen, well, this could be a scroll, a very important message to the queen. It's got the seal on it of the queen and that sort of thing. You kind of, your players will be like, oh, should we break this open and take a look? No, 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 no. Somebody like an NPC will say, if you break the seal, you have desecrated the word of the queen, and the queen wants this message to be given out to this name on here, uh uh Leonardo. Okay, we have to go ahead and deliver it to Leonardo. Maybe he will give us a reward for it, or whatever.
Yeah.
um, but that's the thing. It gives you ideas that you can just pop into your head and then
I've
work on
actually
them
seen
later.
you come out with your own little flashcards there too.
Yeah, yeah. I
You know,
was
you get creative once in a while, and you just write them down, write different instances, and sometimes when we're stumped, you sort of whip them out and be like, hey, let's do this.
There you go. Yep.
This happens,
Yeah.
and then it'll trigger a chain of events, and you're off to the races again. It's
So
really cool, like with the theater of the mind, on how much freedom you have to create a game.
and it
And
makes that the combat and everything else flow a lot faster. A lot of people will go, "Oh no, no, we need to be knowing our positions and everything." No, you don't. I mean, you just apply the whole logical idea. If you're one guy is attacking a creature, and they're going bang bang at each other, there's no reason to think player number two comes in and says, well, I'm going to flank and attack him this way. Just give him the bonus. It's pretty obvious that if that creature is fighting one guy, he's going to be solely concentrating on him. And then when the other guy comes in, yeah, give him the bonus, or whatever it is. It is easier to go with simpler systems than 5e, because 5e seems to be very exacting on the conditions of when a certain bonus can be enacted, or a
yeah,
certain ability can be evoked. So having the freedom of a more simpler, easier system like Castles and Crusades, even second edition, for first edition D&D, even some of these, Beckme and Osric and these reformations of original Dungeons and Dragons can be useful in that way. I would say, second edition is probably the best edition before it went totally nuts, because that was kind of the precursor game system that started coming out with all these little books, that add-on books, like
mhm,
the thieves handbook, the fighter's guide, and stuff
yeah,
like that. It started adding on more and more stuff, and that's where TSR was getting to the idea, hey, we can make more money by, creating all these extra splat books for everybody to purchase and keep this ball rolling for a longer period. And then that became, once 3 and 3.5, it went crazy that way. So they were creating a base rule set, and then giving you all the additional bonus, character types and stuff like that with additional books that you buy. So
mhm,
yeah, yeah, second edition, yeah, it did start the splat book ecology for sure. Now, our player group back in the day with Ted, which is the first game master where I seen him. He was the first gamer. Like, we played Theater of the Mind before, with other games and other game masters.
Yeah.
But he was the first one that he could just sit down without any full books open or anything, and he would just do a game session pretty much like you would see RPG is dumb. If you watch RPG is dumb, watch Jacob do his thing. He doesn't have any books in front of him. He's laying back, doing this kind of thing and just chilling out. And he's like, okay, and then this happens and da da da, make a roll for that. And it's pretty much, all theater of the mind and him just coming up with things. He probably does have a little kind of idea of what is happening, with the NPCs and stuff like that, the surrounding, who is doing what to who, the reason why the glitter boys are here, and the reason why the coalition is also involved in this, and why this wizard is here and doing this with this mutant party of rats, or whatever it is that he came up with. They all have their own ideas. Like you have to have these, their goals and their motives for being in the current situation, and that's what you play on, and that's where your players can interact with those characters in an adversarial way or a cooperative way, which makes things really interesting instead of just oh, we see a monster, bang bang bang, and that's another thing about
that's where you come in and be like, that's the importance of NPCs.
Yeah.
They help set the mood of the situation, and it can go either a good one or a bad one. But now, as you were saying,
now also with Theater of the Mind, remember the time that you guys took on the Roper? You didn't know what the heck it was.
No.
All you seen was something come down from the ceiling, and it went thwack and nailed the thief in the chest, and then all of a sudden started yanking him upwards, and he started going up and up, and you guys were like, oh crap, and then you shone the torch up there, and you were like, there's this big giant maw, just drooling out this drool and everything, and these tendrils are pulling him up, and then suddenly, as you're looking up with a thwack, your torch goes out of your hand because the monster hit that instead. And you're like, shit, you're like, what is it?
Yeah.
You didn't know. And that was part of the fun. If it was basically me throwing down a mini and saying, there, you would all go, oh, it's a Roper, crap. Everybody disperse, or whatever it is, If you have no idea what it is and you're just being described the monster, it makes it more intense. It makes it more fun for the players. They don't know at first glance what it is they've encountered. And it just makes it more awesome that way because their brains are filling in what this thing looks like. And a lot of times the players are going to be imagining like some of the worst things ever. Like whenever I get described that, the maw of the Roper, I'm thinking anglerfish kind of thing or something like that. Just because I think, ooh, that's the most despicable looking thing I could ever imagine. And that's the thing that you want with your players is them to fill in those, that imagination with their own imagination.
Yeah, their own visualization of the enemy.
Yeah, and you don't try to stomp that out. You want that to be like part of the player's psyche, like their fears, their joys, and all their experiences in the world. They can kind of relate to it that way,
Yeah, you bet.
Yeah. Just thinking of anything else I could probably add to this.
I did write down some notes for this session. I don't know if there's any more things to ask.
Yeah, because the only thing I would have shown you if my pen would have worked was just basically how I draw the boxes. It would have been just basically boxes and lines.
Yeah,
it would have. it wasn't going to be anything that kind of looks crazy serious. Like let me, maybe I
Yes.
can do this here with
Yeah,
just
maybe
the
you could show us a map, like on how you would draw one out, even if you throw it on paper or whatnot. Being
see,
able to
let's
draw
do
out a quick map
present.
or off your tablet or whatnot to sort of give everyone an idea on how easy it is to build these things and how much fun you can have with it with theater of the mind.
Okay, you have the uh what I have on my page. Let's go
Oh,
ahead and use
okay.
some
Yeah,
squares.
I'll throw that in
Let's go
there.
ahead and make the squares a little bit bigger here.
Yeah.
Um,
So everybody, he just brought in his tablet there. He's going to show us a quick demonstration on how he creates his maps through and how he sort of does it through theater of the mind.
let's go ahead and see if this makes it a little bit bigger. Yeah, this will be better. So if I create rooms like so, you can easily just plop down a bunch of ideas here, and then we'll go ahead and grab some lines. We'll go like this, doink, and then this, doink, and then this, doink, this. It's for your reference. It's not meant to be for the players to be checking it out and knowing exactly what's going on. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
this is for you, the game master. You don't have to, um,
You don't have
detail
to
out.
show it to the
You
players. You're
can,
basically creating the scenario on where
or
they're going to
yeah,
go
for
for
your
their
for your
dungeon.
own for your own idea. So here we go. The entrance comes in like that, so to speak. Yeah, let's just move her over a bit. It's kind of awkward. I don't have my actual pen working here. So yeah, in this room here, you would go ahead and detail out a few items of interest. I mean, you could put in a spot here. Say you wanted to put in a big pit trap in here, so you would go like this, and then you would do the, you know, this means that there's a trap in there. You can also do that in the middle of a hallway, like up over here. So over here, we will have a trap there. Of course, you would use thinner lines, of course, but I would just put an X in there that there's a trap there. In the case of a secret door or something, you could do something like this, where it doesn't connect to either room, but there is a secret door between them. We'll go ahead and put another secret door, secret passageway here. So it goes into here to here. Very easy. So now you got secret passages. You got a couple of pit traps. This could be a pit trap. This could be a thing where something comes down on the players from above. You just go ahead and detail out in each area, a line of text outlining a few aspects of each room, and that's all you need. You probably have, pit trap from above, and pressure plate. Then you can have something like, what else is in here? You could say that it's the room is made out of carved marble stones, put together precisely, on the floor and on the walls.
Mhm.
So they're getting an idea. It's this gray marble. Then you could also put in here, you know, something like a switch. There is a switch on the north wall. So you have a switch somewhere on the north wall. You don't have to put it exactly where you want it, because it's going to be where the players are thinking it is, right? And then over here, you might say, okay, treasure found. Well, when this, there might be a couple of dead bodies in here that have been pierced by the incoming, like spikes that are coming down from the top of on the ceiling. You might have a few bodies there would have some treasure in it, and that's how you would run this thing. Doesn't matter where these bodies are. It doesn't matter where that switch is. As far as the players can imagine it, they can imagine that uh, the the exit over here being over here, They can imagine it being over here. It doesn't matter. It's on the north side of the room. That's all that they need to know. And your players can map out. You know, they could have a Chessex map on the table, and one guy could just be, you know, doodling out because he's maybe maybe he's the mage who is mapping out the directions that you're going, right? Because if a mage doesn't usually uh, interact in a lot of close quarters combat, so they're kind of like more in the back and observing things and writing things down, right? And they're usually the ones with the quill pens and the blank pieces of paper. So that could be a fitting way to have the mage interact with the area a little bit more than, say, the thief or the warriors or whoever.
So
So
basically, with the mage being having a little foresight into the dungeon that they're going into.
that's right. He maps it out. He knows that there's a corridor going straight when he pops in, when you all pop into this, you know, this dungeon. And so he draws a line on the Chessex map. And then as you continue down, he may extend it a little bit. He may query whether or not if that's right or not. I'm not going to say anything because I'm the narrator. So it's
Basically,
up to you guys to decide.
You're the one that set it up. So it's
Yeah.
these guys that have to use their imagination to see where
Now,
it takes you. You just laid the basics out for them.
exactly. Now the player's map could entirely become inaccurate. But the fun thing is, a lot of these dungeons, like for instance, B1, In Search of the Unknown, there is a section of the map where there is a kind of like a teleport that happens. So it teleports you into a spot that you think continues on the right way, but in actuality, it brings you back to the same spot. So when you're mapping it out, it's like really distorting your map because you're like, wait, this doesn't make any sense. Well, it's because there's a teleport in there, but you didn't know that. So it's things like that that you can enter in that make those feel a lot more realistic than throwing players onto an actual realized map on fantasy grounds. And then you're kind of left going, how do I make this teleport work? You know, do I don't know how that'll work.
A
'Cause
really
you're
funny
yeah.
instance for that one would be if anyone out there has seen Thor Ragnarok, when he got put into that little cave with all the gladiators and he was trying to get out and he ran around and he came right back to the beginning.
Yeah.
And he
Yeah.
did it a couple more times until he figured out that he actually can't get out that way. So that, like an instance like that, you can probably bring that to your game and make a cave like that, and it would really throw your guys into a loop where you're gonna have to think of, well, how am I gonna get out of here? You know, let's think of a way to get out of here. And you know, if there's something on the wall, if there's something on the ground that's been dropped by someone, you know, theater of the mind, guys. Like it's a great way to play a game because it boosts your foresight. It boosts your, you know, your creative mind. And people like me, I actually started doing this, and wow, like the things that come into my head. I used to be creative back in school, but when I started work, I lost that flair. I lost that sense of creativity because I'm like, okay, go to work, you know, go home, play a computer game, go to bed, go to work, yada yada yada. Then Rick, he starts these games and he's like, think of what could possibly happen to a situation like that. And boom, it just wow.
Yep. You can go back to a lot of, like, if you do have like old, you manage to find an old module, like, you know, one of the old D&D modules, and you're curious, you know, I want to know what's in B1, you know, In Search of the Unknown. Open it up, read it through, and there are some really cool things in it that make you go, I I have never seen this before in a 5e game at all. So I want to put this in a in my own dungeon, in my own way, in my own dungeon itself. You can get some really cool ideas out of them. Sure, you might end up with a Gonzo dungeon and stuff like that. I mean, there's places for you make the Gonzo dungeon, which is basically a menagerie of creatures that live in a complex put there by some crazy mage that thought it was a cool idea for some reason, has them there in order to secure his treasure, or maybe he's just crazy and just gets off on watching players die indiscriminately. Characters die indiscriminately, and he just laughs at how inept they are and everything. Right? It's whatever you want to do. You can do that. You get that a lot with say the fantasy trip, the death test and stuff like that, which is stuff people would know if they played fantasy trip.
Mhm.
But a lot of that gonzo-ness, sure, you can do that, or you can have things put together in a very sensical way. there like there's a reason why there's a certain amount bunch of creatures in this complex, and you can really plan them out in a way that it makes sense. And like for instance, the dungeon that you guys were in L1, which is not actually part of L1. The that part I totally made on my own, but added it to the Secret of Bone Hill as kind
Mhm.
of an adventure just to get you up to the point where you could go to Bone Hill, which is
Yeah.
very tough. It was something that I put together. It was a complex built by the brigands, which was they took over these mines. The mines are still could be active. It's something that could be used by the players afterwards if they cleared it out, kind of idea.
Yeah.
If they get permission from the lordship or whatever, or it was just something that made sense. So there was a complex where you entered in. It was kind of like a run of the gauntlet kind of thing where they wanted to make sure that whatever came in got trapped, which is exactly where we left off in that game. Was you guys entered in the big area, facing off with the last of the orcs, and suddenly the portcullis falls in behind you, and another secret door opens up, and this black kind of ooze kind of thing pours out and starts enveloping one of the orcs. And then you're like, oh shit, what are we gonna do? Right? You know, we got to figure out how to get through this big double door, or get through the portcullis again, or maybe there's a secret way out through where that black thing came out of. You don't know. You don't know until you get there. But that was kind of the idea. Is these guys, these orcs and these half orcs are pretty smart. Now the half orcs are in L1 Bone Hill. The half orcs themselves, those are two actual NPCs in that game. But the
Yeah.
complex itself that I created was something that I created on the fly, and made it that way. So as you go through it, you end up being in where the rest of the brigands are holed up, where they hold their treasure, where the shaman is, where he is at, the torture rooms, that sort of stuff. And of course the way out, which ends up being the spot where the roper was, which
Mhm.
is kind of like a last ditch guardian, which and big finale kind of fight if you wanted it to work that way. But it's entirely up to you how you want to do your dungeons. But you have to kind of let your players know, okay, this is going to be like a Gonzo dungeon kind of thing. So they're like, okay, we're gonna be having madhouse fun in this one, right?
Mhm.
We're gonna be teleport rooms, or people are gonna be vaporized in the middle of hallways or something like that. It's an it's depends on how you want to have your game. If you want it to be more, these guys are going to continue on playing as players, then of course you make it more sensical, and you're not so making it so deadly. But it's
Yeah.
always good to have a fun gonzo dungeon in order to just uh, you know have people dying horribly, in various
You could
ways.
you could probably have the Gonzo dungeons in like a one shot or whatever.
That's right.
Which
It's a one shot thing. Exactly.
yeah, which brings me to another question. Honestly, a lot of people are like, okay, we're gonna do a campaign, and this is what's gonna happen, and all this kind of stuff is gonna happen, and this is gonna happen, and we're gonna get through this campaign.
Mhm.
I tuned in with you and Abraham talking about games and stuff like that. And the thing I took from it was you don't want to run a campaign and make it feel like a campaign.
Right.
From my understanding is if you're going to make a campaign, start off with one session. And depending on where that session goes, go into another session. And then another, and then another, and it goes on like that, and that's what creates a campaign.
Yes.
If you try,
Because what happens is, say for example, you set up something for your group at home, okay, with Tristan and his friends or whatever.
yeah,
So you come up with a super elaborate idea. You put all this time and effort into it. You're thinking, yeah, I want this to last like maybe 10 sessions or whatever. Don't ever go in that way. Just make one kind of adventure, which should run maybe between five to six rooms, 4 to 6 rooms worth of something, or it's going to be something in an outdoor setting that they go in through some sort of, maybe some sort of a forest with, brambles and stuff like that. So some of the ways are kind of blocked. So you kind of got only certain ways that you can go through. You got those ones. You can also have something like a strange hut in the middle of a forest, and there's a smoke coming out of the chimney, and the outside is plastered with candies and stuff like that. And your players come up to that, and they're like, okay. You hear the screams inside of some child. Oh boy. Now the players do something, right?
yeah,
That could be just an entire adventure on its own. It's very dark, yes, but it's just something to evoke kind of a quick emotional response. We need to save somebody right now. When in actuality, it's probably the witch's crow up there that's making the bawling noises of a child, and he's just beckoning you into the trap kind of idea. And
yeah,
that could be the setup. It could be totally what the players didn't think it was entirely 100%. You throw in a twist in there, right? And that makes it fun and memorable. And the way that the players interact with each other and trying to achieve this goal of finding out what's going on in there becomes what's cool about that whole thing. So you want to have like these small little things that where if the group decides, yeah, sorry, Dad, we're gonna be playing this instead on the rest of our Saturday nights instead. See you, Dad. I mean, then you didn't waste a whole lot of time. You just had the one scenario, which would have been cool, and they went through it. They're either gonna like it or they're gonna hate it. You didn't waste your whole couple of weeks trying to figure out something that would last 10 sessions. That's the thing. You don't
yeah,
want to waste your time. We're too old. We're too old to waste our time anymore. So you have to think kind of that way now.
yeah.
Well, I do. I'm starting to get old, so
Well,
I want to
I
be
don't know. You still got quite a bit of spark left in you.
a little bit, anyways. We'll see. We'll see how that goes in the next few years.
Yeah. I was trying to I was trying to get Shadow and Sun in here, but I guess the settings that I have on it is kid friendly. Um,
Oh, okay.
uh,
Okay.
he just answered me back. I tried letting him know about what was going on about an hour ago before I started my stream with you, and I wanted to see his intake on Theater of the Mind and
Mm.
how he's enjoying the version of Theater of the Mind compared to like 5e, etc.
Yeah, he was talking about that on our stream as
Uh-huh.
well there. That was pretty funny.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't
yeah.
know if I have like a whole bunch of a different audience compared to what the other streams like you
Mhm.
do or Shauner or Shadow and Sun. I don't know if I have new viewers on here, so
I would,
it could
yeah,
be a different, like a different conversation in itself.
I would trust that what will happen is you'll get like me, probably about 60% of the people are just new viewers.
Uh-huh.
That's what I find is people just happen upon my video, or if you're taking this to Twitter, that can influx a lot of people into from Twitter into your
I know,
checking your
yeah,
stuff out.
I know Tristan does a lot of streaming with gameplay and stuff like that through like computer games.
Mhm.
He goes through Twitter.
Oh yeah.
Um, Me, I go through YouTube with different platforms. Like tonight I'm using Streamyard. If everyone who is watching and who is new for streaming, it's a great program, very easy to use, very basic. And for the free version, you can do what you need to do, even Ash Shadow and Sun. And I was talking to him about that the other night. Another program I like using for all the new viewers out there is OBS. OBS is kind of a more complex program, but the more you fiddle with it, the more it's easier to add more stuff. And you've seen my last video that was done through OBS. So, it's great. And to have these interviews with people like Rick from 28 millimeter, if you haven't seen his videos, by all means, go check him out. I'm involved in it with the gameplay that we do through Theater of the Mind, and that's what we're talking about tonight. You want to see Theater Mind gameplay in play? Check out his videos. Soon enough, I'll probably be as good as him, maybe in about 50 years, but you never know.
It won't take you that long, you know. It's not that hard. You just have to just remember to stay in a state of mind when you're implementing things. Like I say, I sometimes I'll forget, and I'll have to go, wait, step back, let them play.
Yeah.
But it's those moments where I'm like, okay, eureka, I need to be stepping back a bit, and let you guys do the things that do the planning, do all that kind of stuff, because it's part of that gameplay. The planning is part of the whole thing, you know. You see that in Star Trek episodes, you know. You got Kirk and Spock and Bones. They're all like
Yeah.
trying to figure out what it is that's happening, and they sometimes they'll come up with a plan or a conclusion, or or sort of a plan which you think is the plan, but then they'll twist it up, you know, and suddenly, you know, Kirk pulls something out of his hat at the last minute that you didn't expect, right? So
Yeah.
you'll have things like that in your gameplay too, and you want to encourage that sort of thing.
Yeah. Well,
Any other questions that you had there?
I don't think so. Oh, how did you get to the point of being able to draw your own maps? Where did that come from? Was it always there from playing Theater of the Mind, or did it sort of end up with a create? I'm like, you don't want to stick with one dungeon. You kind of want to create your own for different
Yeah,
purposes.
I mean, these simple dungeons I can make, like, you know, just like you just saw, you know,
Yeah.
within 15 minutes, I can come up with an idea or whatever, you
Yeah.
know, and draw stuff out, you know. Um, I've done super detailed stuff as well before,
Uh-huh.
but I mean, it would be it would be something that you would use if you were to say, in the future, maybe selling it as a product or something like that. I could see that,
Yeah.
or as an idea that you can give away on Patreon or something, if
Yeah.
that's what you were doing. But as far as if you're a game master just doing theater of the mind, I just say just stick with the boxes and squares and lines and a few details in each room, and you're fine because the players aren't going to see it. It's notes just for you anyways, and the
Yeah.
more simpler and easier for you to read it and know what's happening, the easier it is for you to present it. So
Definitely. Yeah.
yeah, but I played around with a lot of mapping programs and stuff like that. There's a lot of cool stuff out there. If you wanted to get into something reasonably cheap, that you can make actual dungeons and stuff like that in, there's a lot of free things out there. There's a lot of free software just for drawing. Um, but just let's for instance, I just got something here. I'll bring it up. This is something new. Bring it in so you can see. Just got to go
Okay.
grab it. Trying to remember where I put them. Did I put them up here?
And while he's looking for that, ladies and gentlemen,
Here we go.
it's not going
I've
to
got
be
some
just,
cool stuff here for you. Okay.
oh, he's that quick.
What was that?
I was gonna let people know as well. Like it's not. I know I've said it before, but I am gonna broaden my horizon as well. Like creating maps and doing RPGs and stuff like that. Another thing I like doing that I will be getting into is painting minis and being able to show you guys my creativity when it comes to painting and stuff like that. You know, I know I repeat myself on more than one occasion, but I'm so excited to let you guys know that my creativity is broadening and my
Your
inspiration,
brains are exploding.
they're exploding with ideas. And I want to bring in other creativity that's even based in my own house. So it's crazy.
So you can get these books. This is a True Red. You can buy them at the at Staples. I'm pretty sure they're put out at more places than just Staples. They might be at like a Michael's or any kind of craft shop or something. But these books will have graph paper inside them. Whoop. Let's not knock the mic. This light blue graph paper hardly shows up, but it's a good guideline. There's tons of paper in here. You can use one of these. Just go ahead and sketch one out. I always use a clutch pen. This is a clutch pencil, so it's just a lead that comes out like so. So you just press it, and it's got a sharpener on the end. So you just take the end, sharpen the end of your pencil. It's a big, thick lead. You'd see it's not like the those little skinny Pentel kind of pens, right?
Like these.
Yeah, I rather use these because this lead will last you a lot longer than one of those, and it doesn't break. You know, you end up breaking the lead all the time, like a snap all the time. You won't have that with these. So get one of these. They are a little bit more expensive, but they are worth it. I have like maybe three, four of them here. So these are to me, I just use them all the time. And then I'll take something like one of these pens. These what are they called? These ones are the Sigma graphic pens. So they're like an ink, pen. This one's got the little flat end on it, so you can make interesting thicker lines with it and stuff. You have ones that are more like, really sharp lines. You can get those. Just wait till you wait. Get a Michael's coupon. They got the 30% or an item, 30% off. I use that all the time for that. So another thing you can get, this is interesting because it kind of presets kind of some ideas for you. The thing is, these are panels, blank panels. Okay. Now it'll give you some ideas in order to start making little dungeon areas and stuff. So instead of having to, you can make each one of these a room and just write down an idea, the monster that's in there, what it's doing, what's its purpose, all that kind of stuff. Just start filling it out. Give yourself some ideas. Just, randomly fill out one of these of totally cool ideas that you can come up with and just do that. Grab your clutch pen and away you go. I'm brainstorming kind of, right? Okay.
And you'd be surprised on how much more creativity you do as you go along with that.
So these are cheap. You get them on Amazon. These are super cheap. The paper in these are really good. Actually, I'm actually impressed with the thickness of the paper in them. So good for that. Another one that I recently purchased. These are like $9 a piece. But these are basically, fairly full-size books. This is half graph paper, half lined. So you open it up. You've got the graph paper and lined on one side and the other. So you can come up with an idea.
Pretty good, yeah.
Yep. Write it out, and you've got 120 pages to work with. This one has the hex paper in it, so you can start to design maybe an outdoor kind of area, or maybe caves, complex of caves or something. And it's got the line paper,
like a mini mini play mat that you can get, with all the little hexes on.
Yeah. So you just use these to write down your ideas. They don't have to be presentable to players. If you're doing theater of the mind, boom, away you go. Just make stuff up with those books. There's a lot of things you can get books, because what happens is, if it's digital, you might lose it. I've had hard drives go down, and you lose your stuff or whatever. I mean, nowadays you got more cloud services and stuff like that, so you can store stuff on say Google, the Google Drive.
Yeah.
I'll use Google Drive from time to time in order to store stuff in there. So like character sheets and stuff for you guys, then you just bring them back up on Google Drive, and you didn't lose anything. That kind of stuff I throw on there. So Google Drive is awesome for that. And if you have a Gmail, you have a Google Drive spot already waiting for you to get filled up with all kinds of crap that you can tuck in there. So I
have to shut down my OneDrive because it drives me insane. It just pulls things and I don't even use the thing. So
yeah. OneDrive's a little weird. I stopped using OneDrive because it would get filled with really non-essential stuff, and therefore it forces you to say upgrade to the pro version because it gives you way more room. And I'm like, nah. I used to use the old version of OneDrive, and that wasn't reliant on sticking everything that you have on your computer onto it. So you really have to be kind of, picky on which version you choose. The older version worked way better. The new
Mhm.
one kind of sucks. So uh, that's what I have to say about that. But like I say, if you want to get into mapping and stuff, there's Hexographer, Worldographer. So Worldographer is a combination of Hexographer with Dungeonographer and stuff like that. So it all combines it all together, so you can put your world, and you can go down deep into the world, into further and further deeper into the hexes, and like closer scale kind of idea, and then detail things out, and then pull yourself back into the world view again, and it gives you a lot of leeway. It does get a little hefty on your. You have to have a fairly decent machine if you're going to build something huge. So I wouldn't get too detaily with it. I would probably just do regions with it or something like that. And then you also get dungeons in there as well. It'll generate random dungeons for you, or you can go ahead and you can bring in something that you've seen or draw it out yourself in Dungeonographer. So a lot
Definitely.
of those are pretty cool. Just pay once and it's yours forever kind of idea. I would say
Sort of
that's your
like
best. Yeah,
sort of like the NBIT cam. You can get the free version. You could use the cam, but if you pay the simple payment on it, it's a permanent payment,
yeah.
and it takes away the watermark that's on it, and it gives you so many different options on how to use it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, there's lots of stuff, but yeah, it if you're artistic, sure, draw stuff out and make fancy maps, and you could probably sell them. Or there's lots of guys out there that have tutorials on how to draw maps and stuff like that. So
yeah,
it's always it's an interesting thing that you can pick up on, and sure. But that's only I would say get into that if that's your dream, that you want to become an artist that does this kind of stuff for other game makers and stuff like that, or if you're producing something that you want to put out there as your scenario for somebody else to use, then yeah, go ahead and start working on dungeons and how to draw them out and stuff. But a lot of times, just doing something in a book like this, and then you can take it and put it on the photocopier, and take a scan of it, and that way you can stick it into a program that parses it out onto a page, and then you can detail things out with typeset, lettering and stuff like that. You can do that as well, and I've seen a lot of hand drawn maps being used that way as well. So it's cool.
the options are endless, everybody. The options are
Exactly.
endless. But I figured, this is the end of my stream there. There are a lot of information that came out of this in the last hour and a half, and
Sure.
I'm I'm really impressed, with being able to run this program myself. I'm still learning, and to have
And
people like Rick come in and help explain certain things on
there you
theater of the
go.
mind and their
You,
opinion on it.
you even got to use the little presentation thing too as well. That was awesome. So you're
Yeah,
getting to learn how to use all kinds of things in here.
yeah, definitely. For coming from a guy that had no creativity whatsoever to being able to do stuff like this, it's worth it in the end run.
You
You
have
know,
you have hidden creativity. You must bring it out.
you betcha. And
Or it
if
makes your brain explode.
mine's already exploded.
Yeah.
But to everyone out there, subscribe if you like the page. If you like to see, you like what you're seeing and all this kind of stuff, and you want to see more, subscribe. Let me know if there's anything I could work on to make it better. Um, you know, and the guy with me, he's a great inspirator. Ask him questions if you got questions and stuff like that, or subscribe to his page as well, because he is very informative, and he'll say it to you straight. Like,
That's why
you
I'm
can do
here.
it.
I'm here to help everybody become better game masters and stuff like that, and make it easier for yourselves. That's what I'm
Exactly.
here for. Yeah.
So to all my people out there, I'm Spence with the Dispenser Show signing off. This is Rick, 28 millimeter. Check him out. Everybody have a good night, and we'll see you on the next run here. Hopefully I can get some more people in here and have a chat with them on their creativity. Good night, everybody.
Right on.